Okay, so let's talk about temperature. How do we measure temperature and so on? Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the concept of heat. And very often people tend to confuse the term heat with temperature. So let me explain what heat is. Heat is, as you can see on the screen, a form of energy that is associated with the motion of small particles of matter, right? So basically what that means is that the energy that is manifested in matter and the particles when they move around is basically what heat is. So heat refers to the quantity of this energy that's associated with the system. So that's heat. Now temperature is basically a measure of the intensity of heat. And it does not depend on the size of the system or the material. And one particular property of heat is that heat is always flowing from a region of high temperature to a region of low temperature. How do we measure heat? Well, as far as the units are concerned, the SI unit of heat is the Kelvin unit. But there are other units that are oftentimes used. There's the Celsius unit and the Fahrenheit unit. And in the lab, we measure temperature, of course, by using a thermometer, an instrument known as a thermometer. Now, the symbols for the units are shown here. Degrees Celsius, a little O as a superscript, followed by C. And then you have Kelvin, K, no O. That's very important, even though I've seen in some textbooks where they actually have the O here as a superscript, but that is incorrect. And then we have the Fahrenheit unit, degrees Fahrenheit, where you have the little O as a subscript or superscript, followed by the uppercase letter F. So these are the different units for the different scales, temperature scales. So to convert from one to the other, there are different formulas. As far as converting from Celsius to Kelvin is concerned, this is the equation right here. Degrees Celsius plus 273.15 gives you the value in Kelvin. Typically, I just use 273 in this case, right? Then to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit, this is the equation that is used. Please note that the 1.8 here is an exact number, right? So therefore, it has an infinite number of significant figures, all right? So this is basically what you would use to calculate or to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Now, if you want to do the reverse, that means you'd have to algebraically rearrange this equation. So what you'll do is subtract 32 from both sides and then divide both sides by 1.8, and then you end up with degrees Celsius isolated on the left, and that is equal to all this right here. All right, so these are basically the different equations that are used to carry out conversions from one unit to the next. Now, this diagram here basically shows you a side-by-side comparison of the different scales. So this represents a thermometer which is graduated in Fahrenheit. This shows you a thermometer which is graduated in Celsius, and this is the thermometer graduated in Kelvin. And we can do some comparison in terms of the numbers. For example, freezing point of water, which is 0 degrees Celsius by definition, turns out to be equal to 32 degrees Fahrenheit and also 273 Kelvin. Then the boiling point of water, which by definition is 100 degrees Celsius according to the Celsius scale, that is equal to 212 degrees Fahrenheit and is also equal to 373 Kelvin. So that's basically showing you the relationship between those temperature scales. So let's apply what we have just learned to this example. Let me go into the pen mode here. Okay, so this question gives you the temperature in Fahrenheit that is equal to minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And the question is asking for the temperature in Celsius. So to do the temperature in Celsius, remember we saw that is equal to the temperature in Fahrenheit minus 32 divided by 1.8. So that would be equal to minus 60 degrees Celsius minus 32 all divided by 1.8. So let me do that on my calculator. So that's minus 60 minus 32 divided by 1.8. And according to my calculation, this works out to be equal to, do this down here, minus 51.1, well, 51, because this is 2, the result of subtracting here would be given 2 sig figs, and you're dividing by 1.8, which is exact, so therefore this is minus 51 degrees Celsius. All right. Now for converting from the same value to Kelvin, I could simply use this value here and add 273 to it, and that will give you the corresponding value in Kelvin. So temperature in Kelvin is equal to temperature in Celsius plus 273, and that will be equal to minus 51 plus 273. So plus 273, and I got 222 Kelvin. And that's how I would do that. All right. Okay, so that's basically it for this chapter. So the next chapter will be chapter 3, which deals with matter and its changes. Until next time.